So now we're going to look at the Iraq War of 2003, believing that Iraq either possessed WMDs or were developing them. The United States, with the assistance of other countries, invaded Iraq in March of 2003. 3 weeks into the invasion, they had reached the capital city of Baghdad. So all in all, things go pretty quickly with us going in and actually toppling the regime of Saddam Hussein. Even as we were really right on the outskirts of Baghdad, the Minister of Information, it becomes known as Baghdad Bob, kind of as a spokesperson for the Iraqi government. He's frequently denying the American presence, claiming to have the Americans on the run, even when people realized that wasn't the case. Saddam Hussein was in hiding. It took us a long time to actually locate him. He actually hid out literally in an underground hole on a farm. But we did topple his government pretty quickly. And then on May 1st, 2003, President Bush declared the end of major combat operations in Iraq, staged a great photo op where he, had a big sign behind him that says "Mission Accomplished," and he's seen given the thumbs up. But sadly, while the mission of toppling the Iraqi government was accomplished, the idea of being able to withdraw our troops was still a long ways off. We set up democratic elections in Iraq, but we maintained a presence there for about 8 years, finally getting out in 2011. Also, there were a number of controversies that came up. Number one, no WMDs were ever found. That doesn't mean that there was no possibility that they ever existed. There's always a possibility that things were smuggled out. Certainly, Saddam Hussein looked guilty because he was kicking out the UN weapons inspectors before the invasion. But ultimately we never found them, so critics say that we went in under false pretenses. Critics also say that the war has diverted attention away from the war on terror and that it has destabilized the region, and it's pretty hard to argue that it hasn't. Since that time, the region has become much less stable than it was before. We've seen numerous revolutions. The whole area is incredibly volatile now. There's also been criticism of the way that prisoners of war were treated, particularly photographs surfaced from a prison in Baghdad called Abu Ghraib, and the pictures from there showed prisoners of war being mistreated by American soldiers, which, once again, that increased the controversy. Since major combat operations have ended, the U.S. and Iraqi forces have had to deal with insurgents. Tactics have included kidnapping and murder, roadside bombs, suicide bombings, and other terrorist attacks. And in fact, even though we finally did withdraw our troops, the Iraqi government still has flare-ups that they have to deal with insurgents. Post 9/11 changes here in the United States have also been kind of a response to what happened. In response to the failure to prevent the terrorist attacks of 9/11, the United States created the Department of Homeland Security, a whole new department of the executive branch of government, with the goal that it's their responsibility to coordinate information among the CIA, the FBI, and other government agencies. Once again, kind of realizing that in the days and weeks leading up to the 9/11 attacks, if you think of kind of this being a puzzle and having all the puzzle pieces there, it was like not being able to have all the puzzle pieces on the same table because the CIA had their puzzle pieces that they were monitoring, and then the FBI had theirs, and they weren't coordinating their efforts, and so nobody could really get a whole picture of how this whole thing went together until after the attacks. So one of the purposes of Homeland Security is to make sure that this information is being shared, it's being coordinated, they're able to fully analyze this information to help prevent future attacks. The U.S. also passed the Patriot Act, which gave the government increased rights to investigate suspected terrorists, including the use of wiretaps. There's still a debate on whether this gives the government too much power to intervene in our private lives. And as we continue on into more contemporary times, we've also found out that the NSA has been largely monitoring our phone calls and finding that other countries have been really kind of spying on us through social media. And so there's all kinds of new issues that are coming to the forefront, but a lot of this was ushered in as some of those post 9/11 changes. And so it really makes us question how much leeway should we give. Even things have changed as far as airport security. Prior to 9/11, if you were going to the airport, let's say you're taking a loved one to the airport, you could actually go back all the way back to the gate where they were going to board the plane and wait with them and literally watch them walk on the plane. Or once again, if you were picking somebody up from the airport, you could actually go to the gate where they were going to deboard and wait right there where they were coming off the plane. But now that's all changed. Only ticketed passengers get beyond a certain point. And so if you're taking somebody to the airport, it's recommended, especially on an international flight, that you get them there at least 2 hours in advance. They have to go through the screening process, which is much more extensive now, and they continue to update it. They do random searches where they'll pull people aside for special screenings. Certainly critics say that this is an invasion of our privacy, but then again, by the same token, nobody wants to go through what we went through on September 11th again, and we have not had another terrorist attack since.